This is Nick Benson. You're listening to the Movie Raid Show.
Hey, and this is Mick Strawn. I production designed everything in the damn world, and we're on the Movie Raid Show.
It's time for the Movie Raid behind the scenes special on A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 with special effects Nick Benson and production designer Mick Strawn. Hello.
How you doing,
Hello. Hello.
Fantastic, man. Now, also, you guys got to stick around at least toward the end of this interview because you're also going to get where to get Mick Strawn's book on A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which has so many things about this film that you can possibly imagine. Isn't that right, Mick?
That's the way I see it. Yes, this is the dead stone truth.
10 things you always wanted to know and 100 that you never knew were even possible. There's 7 lies in the book, and you find them, tell me about them, and you get $1.
Is that the end of the book?
No, it's there are 7 lies in the book, and if you can list them and get them back to me, I'll give you $1.
I'm pretty sure the dollar is the fake dollar. That's the lie. That's one. I found one of them. It's your guys' turn when you go read the book.
You're right. That's one.
Let's start with Nick real quick. How did you get involved with this particular project? And I know Mick has already done 3, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, but how did you get involved with it, and how long was the process for you to even start on this project before everything rolled on set?
Well, for me, it was a kind of an interesting deal because I had worked. It was Steve Johnson that got me into the business in the first place, and I had done a whole slew of stuff with him, and then was out working for Screaming Mad George, and I started working with Screaming Mad George on the cockroach transformation sequence, and wound up also bouncing back to Steve's shop for the Freddy's Death.
And Mick, you've already done the 3rd one. Was this the same crew on 4 as well, or did you have to work with a whole different one? And how did you get approached to do this? Not just because of your work on 3rd.
I would say probably 30% of the crew was the same. Who was the same as on the? Well, not 30%, maybe 20% of the crew. But Rachel Talley was a consistent from one to the other, and she kind of our transportation coordinator Griff Ruggles also carried from 3 to 4. They were kind of like New Line Cinema regulars. I had become a New Line Cinema regular at the time. Just because it's, I like to eat. I still like to eat, by the way.
Now, did you and Nick, constantly ever work together, like on certain things, or did you have to just be there, or was it a little bit of a different experience between you two on that set?
Probably the interesting thing about Nick is you have to understand what we had created was a fucking circus. I mean, it was enormous. We were I can't even remember the square footage that we had, but we had three buildings that were right next to each other, and these 3 buildings had sets in them that reached to the sky. I mean, and it was such a strange thing to walk through this area because I mean, as you would walk outside, and Lisa Wilcox put it best. Lisa says that you would walk outside of the office and you would turn to the right, and you would literally be going. You would have a set on its side floating up in the air. You would have a set that was upside down next to it. These are big sets, upside down that was right next to it. You'd have tanks. You'd have the tank and the water set. You had an elevator. And this was a funny one. Is you had this elevator from hell that was on scaffolding, standing up in the middle of the freaking warehouse, and it stood there like that for probably most of the time we were there, and and we literally, nobody could figure out a way to write that so that we could actually do hell, because we were going to break through to hell. And so eventually we had to take it down in order to film it. Which is kind of ironic, but in the middle of all this fight, and there was like this enormous, there was this enormous building that was a garage. It was a forced perspective garage, and we had the trap itself, the Roach Motel, and we had done a big Roach Motel, kind of at the end of that big hallway, and therein lies the rub that. And I know of one thing in particular that Nick did come up at some point and say, you didn't give us any room underneath this fucking thing in order to puppet these goddamn roaches. and I remember looking at him going, wow, you got fucking cool hair. Now go somewhere else. How's that for accuracy?
Well, at least I'm not described like you described Kevin.
No, not quite. So
I've never been an annoyance, but one with cool hair.
Well, yeah, but you know this for sure. Everybody was an annoyance to me.
Yes,
on Nightmare on Elm Street 4. It was such a completely overwhelming job, and unfortunately, I had the keys to an awful lot of it.
So sure did.
So it was complex. It really was. But the sequence that we were working on, together with the roaches and stuff. But it's really funny because I had to go. I was the one that drew the short stick, and the short stick, and what I think I learned later, one way or the other, was they were all fucking short sticks. The short stick was going to be the guy that was going to have to go down and periodically do a report, quote unquote, on how Screaming Mad George was coming together.
Oh yeah, we've had this discussion before.
Oh yeah.
You did draw the short stick there.
I did, absolutely did.
Talking to George, you might as well be talking to Salvador Dali.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I walked in, and the thing is I'm a production designer. I'm an artist. I mean, God, look at all the shit I was putting together. But at the same time, I was an artist that had a very, very specific focus. And I go into this warehouse that is really small, for one thing. And I'm supposed to be looking at a cockroach and different stages of a cockroach, and I'm introduced to Screaming Mad George, and whether or not he spoke English or didn't at that point was inconsequential, because whatever language he spoke, it could have been Greek to me, and at the same time he's leading me around the shop. And every once in a while, kind of grabbing my hand and taking me over here, right? And I would go over there, and he would start mumbling, and he'd reach in, and he'd reach into a bucket of rubber arms, or jelly arms, right? And he'd pick up, see this, and I'm like, yeah, no, I got it. And then we would go out, and he would and I say, yeah, but do you have a bug? Do you have a together bug that because I had a lot of shit to do, and this was just one of them, right? And and he comes over and he keeps showing me a leg, and then he showed me, this is a bucket of legs, and I go, great, yeah, and then he'd show me the wing piece, and none of the wings had been painted at that point, and he'd show me the wing piece, and I felt like for me to get out of the warehouse, I was fighting for my life at a certain point, and I did get out of that warehouse eventually, and went back and
you're scratching your head thinking, do I even have a fucking transformation?
I have no fucking idea. I swear to God. And you know what? Here's the weird thing: is I finally went up to the office, and the first time I went to the office, and I said, no, he's totally got it. He's totally got it. And then I drew the short straw 2 weeks later, right? And I didn't even fucking go down there. I was like,
I'm not going through that again.
I'm not going through that again. I didn't even go down there. But I could always tell where Nick was because of his hair. Yeah, he had a mohawk that looked like a wheel. It looked like a part of a wheel off of an 18-wheeler, man. It was cute. And he says that he kept that he witnessed us building the junkyard because he was filming right down the street.
Yeah,
which was kind of interesting
in a roundabout way. That was kind of, and then too, I remember from, I don't know if it was the same building that we had the sets in, but we had the waterbed set, the church, and I think where was the pizza? The pizza gag was in there too. Was that in the diner?
Those were actually 3 separate buildings. They were so close together
because we walked right into them.
Yeah, you'd walk from one to the other, but they had built three of those buildings together. But the church, right? The Freddie Hell Church was actually in another building. It was actually you had to go outside and go to the next building,
right?
And that was really interesting. Because I don't know if you remember that, but there wasn't really any walls in there.
No, there wasn't shit in there. I also remember all we had every fucking day was pizza. And do you remember Bill Forsh at all? Bill Forsh, he was like, "Hey, they're shooting some Patrick Swayze movie across the street." So they're shooting. Yeah, they were shooting that across the street, and Bill and I, he snuck me over there, and he's like, "They have lobster and fucking steak every day." I snuck over there to eat.
Well, by the time we got to that last building, we were already clearing the other 3 buildings.
Yeah.
And when we were in that building, we realized how not even close to budget we were.
Oh no, I know. Yeah, you were building that church out of cardboard, if I remember right.
Well, what I did on that church was I run the whole interior of the building with rented blacks, right?
Yeah.
And then because I'd had a lot of experience with limbos, right? And then I built the doors with the little stone effect on it, and then we built plywood window frames and didn't do anything but just painted them flat. We painted dimension onto them, right? As best we could, and then we bought all the columns that we had used and set them in the middle of the space, and then put those pews in there, and then we built we built only things that we had to build that were specific builds, because we had platforms from all over that we had used in the building before. We built the pipe organ, and the pipe organ is hilarious, and it is something for me. It's so hard to see.
Yeah, it is.
To me, and this is a personal thing, and I understand, but literally we were doing that literally as the crew was coming in and looking at it for the first time, and I literally just had built a rack back there that, you know, like a rack that you would make for paper, a display of Christmas paper, right?
Yep.
And we got every fucking tube you could imagine, every size. Some are carpet, some are like literally are just Christmas tubes and stuff. And we put them all up in that rack, and I sprayed them with a combination. One hand had a brass spray can, the other one had a green spray can. And I'm just down the line. And the thing that just really gets me is that you can still see, as soon as you look at it now, all you can see is the lines that
the spirals
that go around the cardboard too, and it just fucking bugs the fuck out of me. You know, it's just like, god damn it. But
hey, we were running out of money, if I remember right. And then on top of that, we were still dealing with a writer's strike.
Oh yeah, no. The thing is all this stuff was being written. None of that was written ahead of time. It was like you know, you people were just look. I wrote a truck hitting nothing.
Yeah.
I wrote the kaleidoscopic Freddy. Right, the kaleidoscope where they come through the kaleidoscope into the church.
Yeah, and then didn't Lisa come up with that idea where it was like the silverware, fucking around with the silverware, and it made like Freddy's
right. Lisa came up with that.
Yeah,
because she made the shadow back there, and she goes and she went to the DP and said, "Hey, look at this over here." Hey, stick to that. Yeah, you know. Yeah, it's considering, and beyond all of that, it is still one of my favorites. As far as and the thing is this: I mean, I did 3 too. 3 was such a horrible experience. I mean, every time I shit, I get rid of a little bit more of Nightmare on Elm Street 3. That was such a serious, horrible. In fact, I just recently worked with Roy Wagner, who's the DP. I worked with him about a year ago, and man, we just sat and just racked on that on the director. I mean, Chuck Russell is such an asshole. And you know, if this was for you,
I remember you handed him off to me for the blob.
I did, and you know what? I could have killed him. He walked right in front of my car.
Yeah.
Right in front of my car. I could have taken care of that for you, but I didn't.
But you didn't.
I didn't. Which makes me a misdirected good guy.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
No, some other people need to experience this guy.
Yeah, that's right. Great. Because nobody's going to believe the fucking stories I've got, right? God damn him. So, anyway, what was going on?
Yeah, man, we got some stuff. I tried to tell you, Mike.
How much of, like, percentage-wise, like, how much of the film was actually filmed on the location, like, in as well on the studio set, for example, like the beach scene and the suburban area, neighborhood, and so forth?
You know, the interesting thing about it is that when you say locations, it's not like there are things that were shot on location you wouldn't believe, you know, and there are things that were shot, yeah, right, like the beach scene. And here's the thing. Here's the thing about the beach scene. It was so hugely manipulated by all of us. You know, I mean, everything that you saw in there was, you know, other than, I think that the things that didn't, you know, the exterior of the Craven was just a shot. You know, I think that we just put some stuff up there, right? But did you know that in the Lisa going over our heads, falling into the screen, did you know that what you're actually looking at is you're looking at the side of a building and you're watching an 80-foot drop?
I did not know that.
So what we did is, and this gives you an idea, one of my concepts on this whole thing was that it's more interesting. In fact, on 3 and 4, I carried it on the 2 of them, is what I saw as being more interesting than the film itself, more interesting than the horror in it, was the journey that was in it. So what I tried to do really hard was make the journey something, you know, really, really interesting. I kind of had in my mind, to tell you the truth, Something Wicked This Way Comes. The circus of it,
Yeah.
right? So in the end, going down the circular staircase on 3, the whole journey of Alice going into the theater, and let me tell you what kind of a journey that was. Yeah, Nick's never going to get a chance to talk through this. You know that, right? But that's not going to stop me from giving you this whole journey. So,
Mick, you're such a good storyteller, though.
So we go through. Alice pays at the theater, pays for a ticket, goes into the theater. That was done on location. That was done on that location. Then we shot inside of the theater. We shot her on a board, kicking her feet. Or actually, I was a stunt person, but you know, I'm not going to say where stunt people came in and where they went. So kicks the feet, and we threw a shoe at her foot because we were going to film it in reverse anyway. So all of us got a chance to line up and try and hit her with a shoe. So once we got close enough, without knocking her off the balcony or anything like that, then we go to shoot on the stage. And on the stage, we have the whole balcony is set up. It is set up on the stage with all the lighting on it, with the camera rig to it, and it's mounted on 2 load lifter tractors. And the load lifter tractors lift up. They lift up, and we have the rest of the characters. Our characters are completely belted in, and they're just, you know, faking eating popcorn and drinking fake Cokes. And Alice is right here, and she starts to react to the fact that everything's pitching forward. This makes it look like she's getting sucked into the screen. So then she gets sucked all the way, and we do those 2 tight shots that are amazing. The 2 shots with the Coca-Cola and the popcorn spilling forward, and those are done on that set. And when it pitches all the way up, she's hanging off of the balcony that we built onto that set, right? And we do a picture of her in close-up, her feet kicking, and then we cut. And we cut that entire balcony section out, and we truck it to Hollywood, and we go down to this place called the Beacons Mink Storage. mink and fur storage. And the mink and fur storage is what it does for us is it was what it was is an 8-story high refrigerator, right? Has no windows. And so we went into the parking lot beside it. We went up onto the roof and we put on cables copies of the beams that had been in the theater, and we pulled them up on cables so that the beams were every 15 feet apart all the way down the side of that building. And then we hooked the front of the balcony to a crane and lifted it all the way up, put the camera on the highest crane that we could so that it was up about 40 feet looking straight across. And then her stunt person gets up there and kicks her legs and then falls into a paper blue screen that's pulled over the airbag. And on the ripple we turned to black and white and put everything up on its side, and that is where is projected and that's a little tiny optical right there where she shifts, and now she's at the crave end. So the tricycle is going into the building.
Yeah.
Now that was just a killer shot. That's just to get her from in the theater to the crave end.
To the film, yeah.
Yeah. So, like I say, the thing that we were trying to do is we were trying to make it interesting in the journey, which to me, I kind of considered this whole thing a little bit more like, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, or that kind of thing. Sort of like a travel. We just wanted to just do all of these travel things, right? And that's what 3 and 4 have in common, is that is kind of a look that's mine, but also the fact that the journey is as interesting as all the gags there.
Yeah, the journey in and out of each dream sequence.
Right. It was really, really important. And the thing is, I don't think that they've quite captured its sense. Not in those, And let's face it, the really amazing thing about it and why I wrote the book was because it was kind of the last time that shit was done real big like that,
Yeah.
I mean, from then on, optics came in more and more and more and more. CGI came in and got more sophisticated and sort of knocked out doing big stuff like that.
Yep.
Now, was this film, as far as budget goes, like there's several of the effects in this movie that seem very simplistic on screen, but effective. But did any of this actually, the simpler effects, did they take longer to hold up certain things in the production so you could actually get done, or was it because of the budget?
Oh no, I know one. I know one right off the bat. The locker shot. Tell them about the locker shot. Seriously, like that's a big undertaking for such a simple, quick shot, right?
It is. So one of the problems that we have with the locker shot is that, for one thing, everybody kept thinking about it in terms of we put a bunch of lights in a locker and then we cut the door to make it look like Freddy's claws. And I kept saying, no, that does not work. That is not what you're trying to do here. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get those streams of light coming through the locker, right? And that means that you need distance. This is why we wound up doing a facade for the Nightmare on Elm Street, because we needed to get distance back to go with our lighting. Anytime that we shot anything on the stage, we would bounce every light off of 4 or 5 mirrors to make sure that they were traveling at least 60 feet before they crossed the set. And that's how you get that screen light constantly in it. And one of the things about that locker is that They were mistaken in that they were thinking that they could get that effect with a locker. And finally, I got pissed off. They had tried second unit or third unit or fourth unit or maybe fifth unit. We had a lot of units. Had tried and failed to get the look with it. And so I finally went down, and while the lockers are sitting there in situ, I welded all the doors together. And then I cut all the doors off of the lockers, pulled the lockers out, put the face of the door back into it, then recut it, because they were also fucking up how they were, doing the cut. And then I cut the claw marks into it, and that way there was nothing behind it, so that they could go back there and put a light 50 feet away back there, shine it through it, pump a little smoke into it, and get the right look out of it.
Now let's do some breakdown on each of these scenes. Let's start with the Freddy boiler scene. And having to throw in the victim and then the singeing. I mean, it seems like that was really close quarters, a tight shot on that shot where she's running down the stairs in the house, and then that tight shot where the boiler room and Freddy. Like, can you break down like the process of that? I mean, was that intentional to be so closely like that?
Yeah, well, that's a really big story.
Yeah.
That happened because okay, I'll go ahead and I've kept an awful lot of this to myself, but that happened because we had to kill off the actor. We had done a really, really huge shot, and we did it with help me out here, Nick. What's her name? Tuesday night.
Yep.
I think Tuesday Night's a great singer.
She is.
I think that as an actor, I think Tuesday Night is a great singer. We did a sequence that literally took an entire day, and to go into it, there was a shot literally where she comes downstairs from her parents' house after taking the drugs. Right? She comes downstairs. She hears a noise out front, and she opens the door and walks out onto her front porch. And the camera sees her in front of her house, and then the camera dives down and kind of does the shoot up her nose rig so that she's isolated in the frame. Then that was just a facade in front of an Elm Street facade. Then we roll the facade of her house back, and this is all on cranes. You're talking about a facade that's 100 feet by, at least 25 feet high, and then the Elm Street house is bigger than that. So then we pull it aside as the camera comes back up and looks right at her, and it widens out. And now she looks behind her, and she sees that her house has become the Elm Street house, and she starts running away from it down the walk in front of her house, and the camera is tracking her. It's right in front of her, and she runs right into an Elm Street hallway, and the door just slams down behind her. Another Elm Street door slams down behind her, and she is in a hallway, right? I'm sitting at my desk, and a week later, after we did that shot, the editor comes up, and he drops a piece of film on my desk. And I go, well, what's this? And he goes, that's your great shot. I go, what do you mean that's my great shot? And he goes, she's not going to make it to the end anymore. We switched. I was like, what? And so then we had to come up for a set that we could kill her on, and we didn't have that much room on the stage anymore, as Nick can tell you. So we took all the
Things are
boiler.
tight.
So we took all the boiler pieces that we had, and I built I built the furnace door, and we put it on these swing things so that we could then slam it into a concrete wall so it would reveal itself, right? A plaster wall, and then basically just the stunt woman jumps into a kiddie pool to get rid of her. So that's how that went. And yeah. So that isn't the way that it was originally written. But then to say that anything was written at all is kind of wishful thinking.
Now, how about the waterbed death scene? Now, that was an interesting illusion of how that was with the girl under there while he's messing around, and then it seems very simplistic, but also it seems very complex at the same time. Can you break that down a little bit?
Yeah. It was a pretty complex set. I remember I was on my breaks from, I think it was the church. I was over there, and man, I can't even begin to tell you how difficult that was and how many takes they kept doing, and finally, what was our stunt, Freddie, on that?
Our stunt was
that Rick Barker?
Rick Barker.
Yeah, it was Rick Barker.
Rick Barker, right.
Rick, yeah, we did so many takes, and this poor girl was just shivering to death after so many takes, and they were just beating her up, and Rick was just like, you know what? If you didn't get it in that many takes,
you don't got it.
Fuck off. You don't got it. She's done.
Yeah. But that tank system was the tank system was built to be able to put the skin over the waterbed, and then have it drain off. You could then pressurize it, because it was then pressurized. It was pressurized by raising the water on the other side of the wall.
Right, because essentially it was just like a small pool, a small raised pool.
And the
bed built over it.
Exactly, and the second part of the pool is a little bit higher than the first part of the pool, and you kind of can. So once we put the skin over the waterbed, then we would raise the water on this side, and we had dump tanks all over the place that we would dump water into it, so it would raise it and give it that bubbled effect, because that was very difficult to get, is that kind of like waterbed look, right? And yet then when it got cut, it would just kind of go into its drains, and that was designed by Peter Chesney, and it was a damn slick setup, but it was cool. It's still a really good way to done
for something that you think is a simple shot. There's so much went into making that scene. It's pretty unbelievable.
I remember.
Didn't people get cut on those fucking blades too? Like,
the
waterbed.
Because
I remember Steve yelling at people saying, "Hey, these things are fucking sharp. Stay away from it."
Yeah, and the thing is it was, right at that point, Mary Ellen Wood should have had better control of that set.
Yeah,
and I thought that that set was a pretty good example of where we shouldn't have been as many tired people as we were.
I didn't understand why they did so many takes either. I was standing next to Rick and that girl, and she was just like, "I can't do this anymore. I don't do any more takes."
Yeah, but Rennie,
and it wasn't even Rennie that was doing it. I don't even think it was Rennie. Rennie was.
I don't think it was. I don't think that he was. I think that somebody else was.
There was like an effects director or something that was doing.
Yeah, we had a lot of.
Steve directed all the church stuff.
Yeah, we had a lot of different people standing in for directors because
well, Rennie in his trailer with his girls. You know.
Yeah, because Rennie had a certain thing that he was doing, and it wasn't necessarily directing. I just think of the cartoon I made with him on both sides. I'm ring. With him with a blonde under each arm, and
Yep. That's my biggest memory of Rennie is him just popping out with the two girls and being like, "Looks great."
We'll go back in his trailer. And then he'd go back in his trailer. And the thing is every time he went back to his trailer, everybody go, dodged another one. You know, I mean, Rennie was kind of ignored through most of that, to tell you the truth. Even by actors, just everybody was kind of like, for one thing, we couldn't fucking understand him, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, it was kind of, directors come and directors go.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about a little bit. Now, we've already mentioned about the beach location scene, but that also seems like another simplified shot. Like, I was expecting, like, an actual Freddy type of shark or something like that, not just the claws going through and boom, here he is. I mean, was it so simplistic that was that scene was just kind of a fast-paced scene, just had to move on with the story? I mean, can you describe, like, as far as the effects go? I mean, that was pretty narrowed down for that.
It was difficult. You know, it was
it wasn't as big a space as it appeared to be, put it that way.
Right. It was a small little pond that we were using. And I think part of the problem on it is that, and you can get into this sometimes, is that the claw probably should have I mean, everybody was kind of equating the claw with a boat, being as it was in the water and stuff. And the problem with that is it was still a human-sized claw, and the scale was a little odd. You know, it should have been that by the time it got into the water, it should have grown. You know, or something. It has never been my favorite part of the show, and it was incredibly difficult to do. And we wound up in every fucking parking lot that we were in. We wound up with a little pile of sand that we were trying to do a pickup shot to try and make it better or more, you know, intense. And the thing is supposedly the concept was that we were going to have like an enormous explosion of sand, right? And Freddy comes up out of this sand and this enormous explosion. However, let me tell you something about blowing up sand. I mean, and here's the thing is I hadn't at that point really, I learned this more like on past Nightmare on Elm Street 4, but blowing up things like sand, blowing up small particles of something and trying to do something dramatic with it is really incredibly fucking hard, because you think to yourself, well, you know, we could do this with maybe a pound of black powder and maybe a gallon of gas, and that'll be a pretty big explosion. And then you blow it up in the sand. The sand. I think the first time that we did that explosion, I mean, I'm not kidding. First time that we did the explosion, we didn't even know it had gone off. We literally thought that it was a dud. And then we went out, and then we went to the end of the lines, and we pulled all the squibs out of the ground, and they all exploded. And I'm not kidding. I was there at the time, and I went, God, I got to be somewhere else.
It's so granular, you don't have any chunks. It's just really fine stuff.
That's right. You know, the thing is you have to blow it up on top of something in order to get it to lift, right? And you can't do that because what we wanted to look at was sand, right? So I think that in the end, what they ended doing is they tried like putting 3 sticks of dynamite down there in the hole, and that was the best they fucking got was the goddamn dynamite, right?
Yep.
So there was a certain point where you gotta go, yeah, this is before CGI. You go, you know what? We gave it our best shot. That's right. We gave it our best shot. and then we tried it. But the thing that did work actually was when she starts to sink into the sand and goes down and gets swallowed by the sand, and that took forever too. That is also a very complicated thing to do. and that is why we wound up, dribbling sand all across the valley and down most of the LA basin, just trying to figure out how to do that, because we do a little bit of it as we go along, going, well, that won't work. Let's go to the next location. That isn't going to work. Oi, 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 oi. So it was, I got to say, I'm still super proud of it.
Well, another fun scene would definitely be the Freddy pizza scene. I mean, can you break that down? Because it seemed like, again, that's another simplistic one, but it seemed like that one effect seemed like it took an incredibly long time, but it was very effective and most creepiness of the whole scenes, in my opinion.
I'll give that one to Nick, because I'm not. I know
what went into it. Like it was John Beekler, who's no longer with us, unfortunately. But he made the pizza itself, but then they also, it's a sort of a combination. Well, there's an optical in there where they put the actors in it at some point too. And, and then he eats it. But like it was literally an animatronic pizza.
Yeah, it was
little puppets in it. And
there was also a full-size pizza.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was with his head, with Danny's head.
Was it Danny's head?
Yeah. And by the way, I think you're wrong. I don't think anything was optical in that. I think that Beekler actually came up with that pizza because I saw the mechanical pizza.
Yeah.
With all the multiple heads on it. So,
I know. I remember the mechanical pizza. I don't remember the big one.
Yeah. The big one was just Danny with a pizza around him. Yeah, with literally
cheese,
giant pizza. Literally, the thing that's great about it, I love it. I said, so who sculpted the pizza? And somebody goes, Domino's. Yeah. They literally ordered a pizza, wrapped it in plastic, and
just dumped a mold over it.
And that was it.
Yep.
But a very effective scene. And the thing is this that was a case where Robert's acting carried. I'd say this about Robert.
It did carry that whole scene.
Robert is such an actor. But not only is he an actor, he can fucking sell anything. And I remember him telling me, because we would go down there, we would talk for hours, like at the end of his day and stuff, which usually was the beginning of my day, and he would talk about how hard it is to sell a lot of these gags, right? Because the thing is you have to like get around the fact that as for instance everybody is poking you. Yeah, as you particularly were very good at.
Yes, very much so.
With the faces and stuff, and he says, and you just have to not. He says like wearing the pizzas and all this the when they did the wide shot and he opens the sweater and all the mechanics are working and stuff, and he says all the mechanics are on my chest, and he says and he says nearly all of them have like a fistful of my chest hair, and they're ripping it off as they move and stuff. I'm going, yeah, I can see that. and yet at the same time, it goes beyond ignoring it. He then just can just completely sell the gag. You know,
his performance alone with the pizza was pretty
just
great.
Astounding. I mean, the whole thing where he's sitting there, you know, in the philosopher's position, right?
And then the end of that, when he pops it in his mouth, it's a Brussels sprout, so that could have tasted very good.
Exactly, you know, and just I gotta hand it to him. You know, he was always just more than professional, because to give 110%, that was exactly, that was him. And when he put that mask on, man, he would say, look, when I put this mask on, we're going for 16 hours. That's all. Every time we're going to go for 16 hours. And you know, you had to like just follow him, you know.
And let's also talk about describe the scene with the church, with the Freddy scene with the church, because there's a lot of mechanics in that and officer physicality, but there's also it's such a confined space too, because it seems like that is a confined space, and you had so much going on at the same time. Can you break down like the effects and how long did that take for that one little scene there?
Well, a lot. Hello?
Hello?
What happened?
I don't know.
Hello? I think we lost somebody.
Mick? Nick?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're there.
No, we're good. Continue.
It's Nick. Nick's got the story. He's got this one.
Go ahead,
Nick.
Nick.
No, I don't have the whole story. You can add to it.
I will.
So you know, we had a 15-foot Freddy torso to shoot with real actors that we had to shove inside that thing and puppeteer a bunch of stuff. And then on top of that, we had to strap Robert into that church set where he's in that, like, against that window. There's a lot there. There's a lot going on there.
Well, also there's the sequences that Jerry Olson came up with, which were also shot in that area. And basically what we did is just put together tubes and any kind of dental dam any kind of latex to stretch through, and we had taken a lot of the pieces of latex off of the big one to make those that spacey kind of going through that tunnel, like, right? The tunnel that so famously had Quigley in it.
Yeah.
So
that was was that close-up shot? That was in the Freddy chest, and I remember that thing toppled over at one point because we didn't have safety cables on it.
The Freddy chest was down at Johnson's warehouse.
Yep.
That was down at his warehouse. And
I think like Howling, we rented the unit next door to shoot in. So
right. And I think, and then I got in there. It's funny. I was going down to check that out at some point, and it fell forward. I saw it fall forward, and then I kind of looked. Still a lot of people watching that, and I kind of. Then slid out the door, figuring that I still had 5 other places that I needed to be. I could not. There are certain times that you have to decide whether or not you can add to it, or you're just going to be an idiot witness. And I thought that idiot witness was about as good as I could do at that point.
Yeah.
And
anyway, so some of that was really done in that 15-foot torso with 5 actors that were body painted, pushing through a latex chest.
Right.
And then it cut to the wider shot of Robert actually screaming with those things, all the appendages coming out of him.
Yeah, and those were all puppeted individually, right?
Yes.
I was on one.
Yeah, you were on one. I think there was 11 of us in that rig.
I think there was 11 of us together, laying on each other, all kinds of, just it was a
And
dog
then
pile.
around Robert's legs, because he was kind of rigged in there, was on his knees or whatever, and then he had a
Right,
fake
yeah.
set of legs. So it was yet another crazy thing to have to do to make that shot. So
And then we had the piece of glass, the piece of plastic glass. We used plexiglass, and we actually used that to break through into the room, right?
right,
Like I say, an awful lot of that room was just stuff that was built and used before.
yeah,
And let's see. And then they came through, and then I remember there was all kinds of problems because Robert danced on the top of the pews. And the thing is all of that action in there is actually him dancing on the top of those pews.
I thought it was Rick.
Well, here's the thing. Rick was in there, and Rick did some of it, but on the wide shot, they couldn't take the shots that Rick did.
That's right. They couldn't.
They did the ones that Robert did.
Yeah.
Whenever you were looking at just his feet there, but Robert did most of that dance all the way through, and then there was a huge argument, and he was banned from doing it again because it was the scariest fucking thing you could imagine doing. You know, of all the weird things that we've done, you know, having him break a leg there. But there's a story in the book about I can't think of her name, but she was the office coordinator, and she had never once come out and watched filming, right? But that was on the last day. The last day of actual principal photography was the day that we were doing all that stuff in there, right? And it was the day at the beginning of the day we did the Robert on the
rig.
No, the Robert on he was dancing on the
that's right. You did that first. That's right.
And she came out, and Robert had something to talk to her about, and he was getting a little bit heated, and he was in full Freddy makeup, and she was sitting there, and all of a sudden she just burst into tears, and ran off, and I ran out after her, and you know, just kind of tried to get her put together. And she talked to me later on and said that she was really tired, and having Freddie tell her off, right? That all of a sudden she says everything turned around in her head, and all of a sudden it was like a dream, right? And she was having Freddie. I mean, how weird is this? Freddie is scolding her about like some overtime overage or something like this, you know, in full costume, in the set, right? You know, and she said it just completely fucking overwhelmed her. And boy, that's what it gets like when you're tired too. Boy, I'll tell you, stuff comes from different directions, you know.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. Let's talk about the famous junkyard scene, and such got a big optical illusion. And is that also the most expensive, right off the bat, the most expensive one that you've done on this set in comparison to 3 and the whole movie itself?
In 4?
In 4.
Junkyard shot.
Yeah, it was a pretty expensive one. It really was. Hard to tell because I tell you, from my point of view, I had a budget. I never fucking looked at it. I never knew how far I was over a budget. And when they would come over, they would say, and I did this in my own self-defense because what I wanted to make sure was that when they came up and asked, do you know how far over budget you are? That I would say, no, I don't. You got a script? I said, you know what? As soon as you give me a script, I'll give you a revised budget. How about that? and then everybody would be grumbling and walking off, right? So as far as expense goes, literally we bought all the cars. We bought 300 plus cars from a junkyard, and then we rented the empty lot next door, broke the fence down, and then I built a model of what I needed to be like, because it needed to do a lot of different things. It had to have all these things built into it. It had to let the light come through, which is why I always would have these huge spaces behind it that would let in that 50 feet, so we could get the lighting into it. And then we had to make it safe enough so that even actors wouldn't hurt themselves in there.
Yeah, and on top of that, light up all the cars that animate and everything, do what they do.
And all that, and Peter Chesney and I had always worked. We had worked together for years already at this point. Peter Chesney was the mechanical effects coordinator, and basically the two of us just put that whole thing together. It took about 7 weeks, and I think that between the two of us, we probably had 30 guys working on it constantly for 7 weeks, and every possible piece of equipment you can imagine. I remember getting stuck. I remember coming out on a Sunday, just before we were going to be filming, coming out on a Sunday and taking the 120 lift up. We had a 120-foot condor lift, and taking it up. And one of the weird things about that space is they use it for. It was an old dump, right? That whole area out there, and that area out there is nothing but wrecking yards. And because of that, because of the fact that the earth is so shaky underneath it, and so I went up 120 feet to snap a picture of the whole junkyard, and it shifted underneath me, and the condor completely turned off, and there was nobody there. I mean,
goddamn graboids.
I'm telling you. and so I literally shimmied down that fucking snorkel. I mean, which literally it was reverse skunk. I had like just this black stripe all the way down me, and I shimmied down, and I was so fucking freaked out I didn't even take the photo. Well, anyway. So
that's a weird experience.
No, but it was. But the thing is we, if you looked at it, it looked one way, but if you got back behind it, it was nothing but steel cable and those concrete barriers that they put on freeways, right? Mm-hmm. The whole thing was just ringed with it. They were everywhere. At one time, I had 13 pieces of heavy equipment out there moving stuff around. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And didn't you also have trouble, like, as far as the actual optic illusion, where all the junkyard, where Kincaid is yelling Freddy's back, and that whole spherical, was that also problematic too? Because I remember last time you mentioned before was the fact is they didn't get the model exactly.
Fucking dickhead! God damn.
Let me guess, it's our other mutual friend.
Yes, it's our other mutual friend. Yeah. Why can't I think of his name? For some reason, I always block his name, and I want to call him Norbert. We'll call him Norbert for now. The head of the opticals guy, Norbert. We'll call him for now. I gave him the model and said, we're both working off of this model, and you're going to have to make this go up, and then at some point you're going to have to go pure optical on the green screen, and I wanted to become a planet. And I wrote, and he had all kinds of screens that, it's like this step and that step and that step and that step, and the last step was always a planet. It was a planet built of cars, right? And so 2 weeks after we're done, he sends over what he's done, because we start with Kincaid Kincaid going to the heavens, right? And the camera's up above him, and it starts to spin, and it spins up, and then it goes into the model that they built off of my model. It goes into that model. But it looked like it went up another 200 feet, and then that was the end of the shot. And I called him up, and I said, well, that's not even, I don't know what the fuck that is. That's not impressive. And so we got into kind of a row, and finally he says, well, I'm fucking out of money. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $15,000, which back then that was some money. I said, I'll give you $15,000 out of my budget, because I could be very generous about that, because I had no idea what it was. I'll give you $15,000, and you go and you make this thing into a planet for me. Yeah, okay. And so then we wait 2 weeks more, and in 2 weeks more, then he comes up, and then he hits that 200. The camera starts moving up, and it's spinning, and then it hits about the 200 mark where it did before, and then there's a real sloppy edge that's still there, I might add, a real sloppy edge to it, and then it comes up, and it looks like it came up maybe to about 400 feet. So this time I realized that I was going to have to drag my fucking ass down to his office. And their offices were in
Thousand Oaks, something like that.
Yeah,
Simi Valley.
Simi Valley, that's right.
That's right.
Simi Valley. And Dreamcast, and literally their office was in the middle of, they had just warehouse after warehouse after warehouse after warehouse. They had nothing in them, but they were covered in black, and you'd go in there and there'd be a track on the ground and like a ship, right?
Yep.
In the middle of it, and cameras slowly moving, one click at a time, all these motion control cameras. And so I go through all this bullshit, and I get to his office, and I had a Sharpie. I said, dude, you and I are having a problem with communication here. I said, I slapped down the storyboards. And I said, look at that. You see that fucking planet right there? I fucking want that planet. If you don't understand it, let me show you the principal factor of it is a fucking circle. And I drew a circle on his desk. And then he comes back at me, and by the he comes saying, well, Mick, I'm trying to tell you something. And then I went and drew a circle on his door. And then I just started to fucking circle every fucking thing, including trophies and shit, and every fucking thing in his office. I go, I want a fucking planet. You got the idea of a fucking planet? And this is finally what he says. Finally, he's cornered, and he's literally cowering between the file cabinet and the chalkboard that's over there in the corner, and he is like cowering, and he goes, but Mick, you don't understand. I go, okay, what don't I understand? He says, well, see, if you're on a rocket and you blasted off from Earth and you started to go up into space and you had a camera pointing back down, it would take you almost 6 hours before it looked like a planet, like a whole planet. You'd have to be on your way to the moon. And I went, are you fucking trying to fucking argue with me physics in a motherfucking Freddy movie?
Yeah.
I said, you know what? You got $15,000. You get it done, or I'm coming back up here. And guess what? I didn't have to go back up there. Because sometimes that's just what it takes.
I can see that. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little scared there for a minute. I started writing circles myself in case I have to do in case I have to do a high school project for somebody else. I gotta write circles and everywhere. It's a planet. It's an effing planet.
Negotiator.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have made a great teacher.
Mick is the negotiator.
Don't ever let this guy teach sex ed, everybody, please.
Dude, you know, I bring a lot of passion to my work. The whole sequence that I told you about, literally, that was one sequence that took a whole day of filming. That they put on it was cut literally so that we could get rid of her. That we could make her not the final girl, and make Lisa Wilcox the final girl.
And that was the only major change. Or any other scenes or anything like that?
Oh God, no! You know, 4 had a lot of. There was a lot of stuff that came and went. Even I couldn't keep track of it.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3 wasn't that way. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was like surgical. It had to be because everybody hated each other so bad. It would have been it would have been a battle, you know. 4. On 4, we were all just trying to have a fucking great time. I'll tell you a wild one about the cockroach bit. On the cockroach scene, we shot the original part of it where she's doing the exercises. Right? We shot that in a little tiny garage in somewhere in North Hollywood. Right? And then we shot plates off of that. Plates were developed, and we got a hold of an old rear screen projector, and we pulled a muslin, piece of thin muslin, what they call theater scrim. We pulled it over the front of the Roach Motel, the big Roach
Motel.
Yeah, we pulled it over that, and while you guys were operating, right, literally, Freddie was looking at us in real time. Yeah. Because we had shot. You were doing that whole projection thing with it. Right. And the cool thing is that I literally had the projector, because we found the projector in the projector guide, so he let me mess with it. And so I'd sit there with the knob and it was the typical, 1930s box with a knob on it, and I was just, as you would turn it, the screen would get no, then it would open back up, and then you would see Freddie projected, right? Because that was literally that was it syncing itself. The speed got right so that it would sync itself to the camera. So I was looking through the camera at the projection and adjusting the projector so that the frames were hitting at the same rate. And when they did, if they were out of sync, there was just nothing but a slot, and then it would open up and open up and open up and open up as I changed it, and then you could see, the whole thing the whole thing right there. That was cool. And part of this was, you have to remember, we did this fast, and we did it fast because we had a release date of February 18th. So August 18th, and we started in February.
Yeah,
and
it was really.
It was so tight. And the thing is that in those days, that wasn't going to give you any time for opticals. I mean, there are almost zero opticals in the whole show. Kincaid's death was an optical. That one scene was an optical, and there's another one in there that's a very short optical. But other than that, there are no opticals in that. This is all practical effects all the way through it. And the thing is part of doing that is we couldn't have one effects person working on it. We had to have the whole fucking town. So we took all these complicated effects and took them one by one and gave them out to other people, gave them out to other companies and stuff. And it's my job to pull, all those things together. And it was so interesting at the time because here you had such a different groups of people working on it that brought such strange resumes to them. The thing is back then you would know who had strengths to do certain things, right? Nick knows this. I mean, you had Screaming Mad George, and Screaming Mad George was one of those guys that was super, super, super creative. Maybe not as communicative as you would want, but you were sure that you were going to get something like kind of out of the world.
Yeah.
But you went to Steve. You went to Steve to get Steve's strength was kind of a big set of circumstances. You know what I'm saying? Is he worked a lot of the things that he worked with scale.
Yeah.
Okay. And in this case, I mean, the scale was a huge determining factor. The scale of Freddie's chest, being small and then large in order to work with it and stuff like that. And then you had Chris Biggs, and Chris Biggs was kind of like half motion control, that kind of guy. He kind of like worked both of the lines of that kind of thing. And then you had John Buechler, and John Buechler was was your utility man. John Buechler was just incredibly dependable. It's like, for some reason, he wouldn't come to mind as being, your big main artist, and yet he had to clean up on so goddamn many shows,
Yeah. Yeah, John was great because he loved it.
Yeah, John literally did it for the love of it. He was yeah.
And he loved to share that with other people. Taught some of us how to do a lot of things.
Oh yeah, John Buechler would literally grab a guy out on the street, if he showed that he was interested.
Yeah.
He was the sweetest man. He really was.
Now, before we get out of here, what are your final thoughts on the outcome of A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, its release, and as well as currently how it's perceived by fans? Were you guys satisfied of this final project? Or, I mean, despite what you went through to do this, were you actually pretty satisfied with how it was, or would you say there should have been more tweaking, should have been this, but due to budget and of course the studio and whatnot, what are your thoughts about on this final outcome of this?
I love it. I mean, Rennie's kind of concept of, and I have to hand this to Rennie, is Rennie did he gave the lighting particularly a very I want to say the rock video kind of feel. Mm-hmm. And in the editing, it had a very rock video feel. And the funny thing about it was, being as it was shittily put together as far as a script and so forth, that also had a rock video feel. Because the thing is there's so many things. There are pieces of Nightmare on Elm Street 4 that I can watch 4-minute segments of it forever, right?
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3 doesn't really work that way, right? Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is a long story, and you have to kind of get into it for the story, and it doesn't work in little bits and pieces very well. Nightmare on Elm Street 4 does, and a lot of that has to do with kind of, it's a half and half thing.
Style.
Yeah, there was the MTV style, and we didn't fucking have a script anyway. So basically, what we were doing is making a rock video.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one of my favorite things about it was, it was hard at the time, and it created a lot of hair pulling, pulling your hair out to make things happen, lots of long hours. But in all honesty, like that film was made by the cast and crew.
It was.
We all pulled together in spite of a writer's strike and made that film what it is. And, and we've created, we've forged lifelong friendships out of that too.
Yeah. That's the main thing with that film is that film, it was the start of so many people's careers. And it was a great calling card for things. I was the old man on the set because I was fucking 31 years old. Imagine that. I was 31 years old. I think the only older person on the set.
Mm-hmm.
There was like 2 older people on the set. One was Jerry Olson, and the other was Robert. Everybody else was just a kid, right?
Yep.
And these are the kids that took. Here's the thing: if you look back and you follow the careers of the people that were doing the mechanics, of that film, they are the movers and shakers that replaced the old studio guys that were dying off.
Oh yeah.
We also really did.
Well, one of the makeup artists on Steve Crew is now an Academy Award-winning makeup artist that's still doing stuff.
Well, one of our second unit cameramen happened to be the guy who the DP for Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that was and the thing is there was very little bickering. There's very little. Most everybody was just trying to make it work, and I cannot tell you how rare it shouldn't be, but it's incredibly rare when you're putting a film together back then under the kind of guise of the studio style setting things up.
Yeah.
And before we roll out of here, Mick, go ahead and plug in. Where can we find your book, and like Amazon or anywhere else, or websites, and as well as Nick, if you have anything that you would like to promote right now.
Okay, Solitude is a film that I directed recently, and you can see it on Tubi for free. It's your typical survivalist Wendigo film, right? It's great. I directed it. I also have Pig Hill coming out in 3 months. I was production designer on that. My book, you can always get a hold of me at Mick Strawn. Just send me a message. You get a hold of me on Facebook. If you find a guy that looks like he's coming out of a cloud, that's me, Mick Strawn. And your turn, Nick.
Okay, yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I also do things occasionally on Cameo. That's about where you can find me. I am working very hard to actually drag Mick into another project. We're trying to get pre-production funds for that, and I'm directing that film. So I'm not going to say too much more about it until I actually have some money.
So there you go. So we're still around.
Very cool, guys. And this concludes A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Behind the Scenes with Mick Strawn and Nick Benson.